What would you do if a doctor looked you in the eyes and told you that you had 6 months to live? Not 60 years. Not 6 years. 6 months. How would you spend those days? Who would you call? What would you say? What would suddenly matter? And what would stop mattering at all? Tonight, I want to tell you about Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old mother of 2 who heard those exact words from her oncologist on a Tuesday afternoon in March. But this isn't just a story about cancer. It's not just a story about death. It's a story about what happens when you're facing the impossible, and you choose to trust God anyway. This is Sarah's story, and it might just change how you see everything. Sarah Mitchell had the kind of life most people dream about. She was 34 years old, married to her high school sweetheart, Tom. They had 2 kids, Lily, who was 7, and Jack, who was 4. They lived in a cozy 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, but it was theirs. It was home. Sarah worked part-time as a graphic designer from home so she could be there when the kids got off the school bus. Tom worked as a teacher at the local high school. They weren't wealthy, but they were happy, really happy. Sarah had always been healthy. She ran 3 times a week, ate well, never smoked, barely drank. She was one of those people who never got sick, who never even took a sick day. So when she started feeling tired in January, she didn't think much of it. "It's just winter," she told Tom. "I'm probably fighting off a cold." But the fatigue got worse. By February, she was exhausted all the time. She'd fall asleep on the couch at 7 p.m. She couldn't make it through a jog without stopping. Then came the pain. Dull, persistent pain in her abdomen. And weight loss. 10 pounds in 3 weeks without trying. Tom finally convinced her to see a doctor. "Babe, this isn't normal. Please, just get checked out." Sarah made an appointment. She was sure it was nothing. Maybe anemia. Maybe she needed vitamins. Nothing serious. The doctor ordered blood work, then an ultrasound, then a CT scan. With each test, Sarah saw the concern growing in her doctor's eyes. But she kept telling herself, "It's fine. I'm fine. I'm 34. I have 2 small children. I don't have time to be sick." On March 12th, Sarah sat in her oncologist's office. Dr. Patricia Chen, a kind woman in her 50s with gentle eyes that had delivered too much bad news. Tom sat next to Sarah, holding her hand. His palm was sweaty, or maybe hers was. She couldn't tell. Dr. Chen opened a folder, looked at them with that expression, the one that says everything before any words are spoken. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. The biopsy results came back. It's pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Stage 4. Sarah knew what that meant. Everyone knows what that means. How long? Sarah heard herself ask. Her voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. Dr. Chen hesitated. "With treatment, 6 to 8 months. Maybe a year if we're fortunate. Without treatment, less." 6 months. Sarah was 34 years old. Her daughter was 7. Her son was 4. 6 months. Tom started crying. Right there in the office. Quiet. Devastated tears rolling down his face. Sarah couldn't cry. She just sat there, numb, while Dr. Chen explained treatment options. Chemotherapy, radiation, clinical trials. Words that sounded like they were coming from underwater. None of it would cure her. It would just buy time. Maybe. I need you to understand, Dr. Chen said gently. Pancreatic cancer at this stage. We can't cure it. We can try to slow it down. We can manage symptoms. We can give you as much quality time as possible. But she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Sarah and Tom drove home in silence. What do you say? What words exist for this? When they pulled into their driveway, Sarah saw Lily's bike lying on the front lawn. Jack's toy truck next to it. The porch light was on. Mrs. Henderson next door was watching the kids. Sarah sat in the car staring at that bike and that truck, and finally, she broke. Deep, gasping sobs. The kind that come from somewhere beyond grief. From a place of pure, overwhelming terror. I can't leave them, Sarah cried. Tom, I can't leave them. They're babies. They need me. How do I tell them? How do I? Tom pulled her close. I don't know, he whispered. I don't know. They sat in that car for 20 minutes before they could go inside. The next few weeks were a blur of decisions and appointments and trying to hold it together for the kids. Sarah and Tom decided to tell Lily the truth. Not all of it, but enough. Mommy's sick, sweetheart. Really sick. The doctors are going to help me, but it's serious. Lily's face crumpled. Are you going to die? Sarah wanted to lie. Every instinct in her screamed to protect her daughter from this truth. But she couldn't. I don't know, baby. I hope not. But yes, I might. They didn't tell Jack. 4 years old was too young to understand. He just knew Mommy was tired a lot and went to the doctor a lot. Sarah started chemotherapy in early April. The side effects were brutal. Nausea, exhaustion, hair loss. She'd sit on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m., too weak to stand, wondering if this was even worth it. 6 to 8 months with treatment. Or maybe 4 months without treatment but feeling like herself. What kind of choice was that? Sarah had been a Christian her whole life. She'd grown up in church. She'd taught Sunday school. She prayed before meals. She believed in God. But now she didn't know what to believe. One night, after a particularly brutal chemo session, Sarah sat in her bedroom and screamed at God. Why? She yelled into the empty room. Tom was downstairs with the kids. Why me? Why now? My kids are 7 and 4. They need a mother. Why would you do this to them? Silence. No answer. No comfort. Just silence. I've tried to live right, Sarah continued, her voice breaking. I've tried to be good. I've served you. I've believed in you, and this is what I get. 6 months. This is your plan. Sarah felt her faith cracking, like ice on a lake that's been walked on too many times. Each day, each treatment, each moment of pain, another crack. Friends from church came to visit. They meant well, but their words felt hollow. God has a plan. Everything happens for a reason. God won't give you more than you can handle. Sarah wanted to scream at them. What reason could possibly justify her 7-year-old losing her mother? What plan required her 4-year-old to grow up without her? By June, Sarah had stopped going to church. She couldn't sit in those pews and sing songs about God's goodness when her body was betraying her, when her hair was gone, when she could see the fear in her children's eyes every time they looked at her. Tom tried to encourage her. "Babe, we can't lose faith now. We need God more than ever." "Where is He?" Sarah asked. "Because I don't feel Him. I don't hear Him. I just feel abandoned." One afternoon in late June, Sarah was sitting on the back porch. She was too tired to do anything else. Just sitting, watching birds at the feeder, wondering how many more birds she'd get to watch. Her neighbor, an elderly woman named Grace, came over. Grace was in her 80s, a widow. She'd been bringing meals over since Sarah's diagnosis. Grace sat down next to Sarah without asking. Just sat. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Grace spoke. "I had breast cancer 35 years ago. Stage 3. The doctors told me I probably wouldn't make it." Sarah looked at her in surprise. She'd never known. "I was so angry at God," Grace continued. "So angry. I had 3 children. I couldn't understand why He would let this happen. I screamed at Him. I questioned Him. I told Him I was done believing." "What changed?" Sarah asked quietly. Grace smiled. "Nothing changed. And everything changed." Sarah frowned. "I don't understand." "The cancer didn't go away because I prayed harder," Grace said. "The treatment was still awful. I still lost my hair. I still threw up every day. I still didn't know if I'd survive. Nothing about my circumstances changed. But I realized something. God never promised me I wouldn't suffer. He never promised me I'd be healthy or comfortable or safe. But He did promise me one thing." "What?" Sarah whispered. "That He would be with me. In the valley. In the shadow of death. He promised He'd be there." Grace reached over and took Sarah's hand. Her hand was wrinkled, weathered, but warm, alive. "I'm still here, Sarah, 35 years later. But even if I hadn't survived, God was with me through all of it. That's what I had to learn. Faith isn't believing God will fix everything. Faith is trusting Him even when He doesn't." After Grace left, Sarah sat on that porch for another hour. Faith isn't believing God will fix everything. Faith is trusting Him even when He doesn't. That night, after Tom put the kids to bed, Sarah did something she hadn't done in months. She prayed. Not angry prayers. Not demanding prayers. Just honest prayers. God, she whispered into the darkness of her bedroom, I don't understand this. I don't understand why. And I'm still angry. I'm still scared. I'm still devastated. But Grace is right. You never promised me I'd be healthy. You never promised me a long life. You just promised you'd be with me. So I'm asking, are you here? Because I can't see you. I can't feel you. And I need you. I need you so much. Silence. But this time, the silence felt different. Not empty. Just quiet. Like someone sitting with you without needing to speak. Sarah continued, I don't know if I'm going to beat this. The doctors don't think so. But I'm going to trust you anyway. Not because I think you'll heal me, but because, what else can I do? I can spend my last months angry and bitter and pushing you away. Or I can spend them holding onto you. Even if I don't understand. Even if I'm scared. Even if it doesn't make sense. Help me trust you, God. Help me have faith. Not faith that you'll cure me, but faith that you're with me. That you're with Tom. That you're with Lily and Jack. Whatever happens, be with us. And in that moment, Sarah felt something shift. Not physically. The cancer was still there. The pain was still there. The prognosis hadn't changed. But something inside her settled. Like a storm that had been raging finally went quiet. Peace. Over the next few weeks, Sarah made a decision. If she only had months left, she was going to make them count. She started writing letters. One for Lily to read on her 10th birthday, her 13th, her 16th, her 18th, her wedding day. One for Jack, for his first day of kindergarten, his 10th birthday, his graduation, his wedding. Letters for Tom, for their anniversary, for Father's Day, for when he needed to hear her voice again. She recorded videos, reading bedtime stories, singing lullabies, telling them about her childhood, sharing advice she wouldn't be there to give in person. She made memory books, photo albums, recipes, everything she could think of to leave behind. But more than anything, Sarah started really living. She stopped wasting time on things that didn't matter. She stopped worrying about a clean house or perfect meals or what anyone thought. She spent hours playing with her kids. Really playing. On the floor. Making messes. Laughing until her sides hurt. She went on dates with Tom. Even when she felt awful. Because being together mattered more than feeling good. She reconciled with people she'd had petty disagreements with. Called old friends. Said, I love you constantly. And she went back to church. Not because she had all the answers. Not because her faith was perfect. But because she needed community. She needed people to pray with her. To walk with her. to remind her she wasn't alone. The worship songs still made her cry sometimes, but now they were different tears. Not angry tears, surrendered tears. She'd stand in that church with her bald head and sing, "It is well with my soul," and mean it. Really mean it. One Sunday in August, the pastor asked if anyone needed prayer. Sarah raised her hand. She walked to the front of the church. Dozens of people gathered around her, laid hands on her shoulders, her back, her head, and they prayed. They prayed for healing, for peace, for her family, for a miracle. Sarah stood there, eyes closed, feeling the presence of God stronger than she'd felt in months, maybe years. She didn't hear God's voice. She didn't see a vision, but she felt Him, deep in her soul. "I'm with you. I've always been with you, and I always will be." Sarah went home that day different, still sick, still facing death, but no longer facing it alone. September came, then October. Sarah was still alive. The doctors were surprised. "You're responding better to treatment than we expected," Dr. Chen said cautiously. "Let's keep going." November, December. Sarah celebrated Christmas with her family. She hadn't been sure she'd make it this far. Lily hung an extra ornament on the tree. "For the miracle," she said, "because you're still here." In January, 11 months after her diagnosis, Sarah had another scan. Dr. Chen called her in for a consultation. Sarah and Tom sat in the same office where they'd heard the worst news of their lives. Dr. Chen looked at them with an expression Sarah couldn't read. "Sarah, I don't know how to explain this, but the tumor has shrunk significantly, and the metastases, some of them are gone, just gone." Sarah felt the room spinning. "What does that mean?" "It means you're responding to treatment better than any stage 4 pancreatic cancer patient I've ever seen. It means, I don't want to say the word remission yet, but we're heading in that direction." Tom started crying. Sarah just sat there stunned. "How is this possible?" she whispered. Dr. Chen shook her head. "Medically, I can't explain it. Your case is extraordinary, statistically improbable. Some might call it impossible. Some might call it a miracle." Sarah continued treatment. Each scan showed more improvement. By March, exactly 1 year after her diagnosis, the active cancer was undetectable. Undetectable. Dr. Chen sat across from Sarah and Tom and said words Sarah never thought she'd hear. "You're in remission." Sarah and Tom sat in the parking lot afterward, holding each other, crying tears of joy and disbelief and overwhelming gratitude. "How?" Tom kept saying. "How is this possible?" Sarah knew how. She knew exactly how. "I want to be very clear about something. Not everyone who has cancer and prays gets healed. Not everyone who has faith survives. Sarah knows that. She met people in the chemo ward who didn't make it. Good people. Faithful people. People who prayed just as hard as she did. She doesn't know why she lived and they didn't. She doesn't have easy answers, but she knows this. God was with her in the valley, and whether she had lived or died, that would still be true. Today, Sarah is 37 years old, 3 years cancer-free. Lily is 10. Jack is 7. They're healthy, happy kids who hug their mom a little tighter than most. Tom still teaches high school. Sarah still does graphic design from home. But everything is different now. Sarah volunteers at the cancer center now. She sits with newly diagnosed patients, holds their hands, tells them her story, not to promise them they'll be healed. She can't promise that, but to promise them they're not alone, that God is with them, that even in the darkest valley, there is light. Sarah keeps all those letters she wrote, the ones for Lily's birthday, for Jack's graduation. She hasn't thrown them away. I might still need them someday, she told Tom. Cancer can come back. Life is fragile, but it's also beautiful and precious, and every single day is a gift. Every morning, Sarah wakes up and thanks God for one more sunrise, one more breakfast with her family, one more school drop-off, one more ordinary, beautiful day. She doesn't take anything for granted anymore. When people ask her about her miracle, Sarah says this: the miracle wasn't just that the cancer went away. The miracle was learning to trust God whether it went away or not. The miracle was finding peace in the storm. The miracle was discovering that God's presence is more valuable than God's healing. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful every single day that I'm alive. But I learned something in that valley that I never would have learned on the mountaintop. I learned that faith isn't about getting what you want. It's about trusting who God is. And He is good, even when life isn't. Maybe you're facing your own valley right now. Maybe it's not cancer. Maybe it's something else. Financial crisis, broken relationship, mental illness, addiction, loss. Maybe you're angry at God. Maybe you're questioning Him. Maybe you feel abandoned. I want you to know something. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to question. It's okay to not understand. God is big enough for your doubt. He's strong enough for your rage. He's present enough for your pain. Sarah learned something that changed her life. Faith isn't pretending everything is fine. Faith isn't toxic positivity. Faith isn't denying reality. Faith is saying, this is awful. This is terrible. I don't understand it, but I trust that God is with me anyway. You might not get the miracle you're praying for. Not everyone does. And that's the hardest truth to face. But you can have peace in the storm. You can have hope in the darkness. You can have God's presence even when you don't get God's intervention. The doctor said 6 months. God had other plans. But even if God's plan had been different, even if Sarah hadn't survived, God still would have been with her. God still would have been good. God still would have been enough. Because that's who He is. Whatever you're facing today, you're not alone. God is in the valley with you. Reach out to Him. Even if you're angry, even if you're broken, even if you don't understand, He's there. He's always been there, and He always will be.